Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last day of Play Day, which is the seeding stage. So far, teams had to give it all to get the best number towards playoffs. And if you don't do a good job on the first 2 days, well, it's up to you to deal with the heat from playoffs, because NLC this year is looking hot, even though this is Northern League of Legends Championship. Obviously, with a touch from Arozzi, these beautiful chairs. We'll talk about that as we go forward. My name is Alexander Arsharamaya. I will be your host, but I'm not doing this show alone. It's impossible. So, without further ado, let's introduce the desk. We have from yesterday inside of the Rift to today in the desk, Salari and Initialize. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Alicia? You doing all right?
You know what? Yes, actually. It's just I have to deal with you for another day, unfortunately, but it's fine.
How are the DMs?
How
are the DMs after the swing moment?
Next question.
Next question, please. Well, we're not doing this by ourselves, obviously. We also have inside of the Rift voices. One of them is so known. He's the worldwide Mr. Famous Duckling, and Jamad is also there. Wow, they probably have sound, but yeah. Are you both muted?
We was both muted. That's actually the problem.
Okay,
but the thing that I want to show today
Yamada?
is, look at what I've got to set up since last time. I have this beauty, this
Congrats.
bad boy, now looking absolutely
Jamada!
fabulous, and I see Jamada has something looking very nice as well.
Yeah, I've got one. I've had mine since last week. I've been enjoying it.
Okay, let's be honest. It's actually really comfortable, isn't it?
It's really nice.
It
Yeah,
It's
look.
really nice.
Admittedly, sometimes I've never been the biggest fan of gaming chairs, but this chair right
Yeah.
here, this is. I'm happy.
It's a
that I
surprise.
have one. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not being paid for this, we're actually being honest.
No,
this
is
really
genuine.
good
This is
chair.
a nice chair.
I'm not lying. So, toss it back to the desk. Best of luck within the Rift, and I'll see you soon, boys. See, I didn't bully Duckling. I'm trying my best.
You're doing good.
I don't have my chair yet. I'm the only person on this broadcast who doesn't have their chair yet.
Question. You live with Nightmare. Have you
I
checked
do.
his bedroom? Because this is a really good chair.
He got home before me from the holiday. There's a world where he's just hidden it away from me.
He's probably laughing right now, like,
Yeah.
There's gonna be some sibling violence. I'm telling you now. I'm gonna deck that man. Let's go.
Renekton and Nasa step up into real life. But if you want to step up, I'm telling you now, sit down on this beautiful chair from Arozzi. We actually have a giveaway. What are you going to get? The wheels? No, the entire thing. You can get one of these bad boys back at your place. All you have to do is follow NLC on Twitter, follow Arozzi Official on Instagram, and then like and retweet the post on Twitter X. It's so simple. If you don't do it, it's on you. It's on you. I'm just saying, somebody will be extremely happy soon enough, because this giveaway won't last that long, so keep that in mind. And talking about not lasting a long time, well, groups are about to be over today. We say farewell to them at the end of day 4. But what happened on day 2 on Group B? Can we talk about that? Initialize, Solari, help me, because my memory is like I play Team, so I need help.
Things got weird, I think it's fair to say, from last week. Because obviously that first big loss for Ruddy Sack in game 1, there was some weirdness with Leader not being allowed to play the first game. So Yamata Cannon was subbing in, Perks was role swapping back mid. That all ended up super weird. But on the whole, outside of that, things played largely to plan. I would note the Venom Crest DMG game was a little bit closer, I think, than people were expecting. There were 1 or 2 games that went a little bit later than we saw, say, yesterday, where things looked a bit more cut and dry.
What's interesting to me personally is that I think in Group B, we're having such a tight competition, maybe much tighter than we're having in Group A, actually, because Rich Kang establishing themselves with a 2-0 week from the first day. We have Radisak, who were expected to be probably the leaders of their group by quite many viewers, are actually finding themselves in this very tight group of 1-1 together with DMG Esports, with Venom Crest. Chaos are probably the only ones who I'm really very sorry about, because they were having it rough, brother. It's not just about their score being 0-2, it's just about who they had to be playing against, and the fact that it's just they were not able to find any openings against the teams they were against.
Yeah, I think that was a rough one. Here we go. Of course, Perks did get solo killed by Turtle, which was a whole thing.
true.
Great call from Milcott on the day with that one. But actually, on the whole, Humza got his Draven, which, you know, as the least experienced member of that team, was pretty scary to see. And then, of course, we come through to this one where the Venomcrest Rich Gang game got very, very tight. We're in 30-minute here, and the kills were very even. The gold was very even. But in the end, that range discrepancy between the Wei and the Varus, with all of that kind of air zone control frontline, proved a little bit too much to overcome. And this last one, oh boy, Chaos, you might have had a bit of a fun time against Ruddy Sack in the early game. This one was just DMG taking them to town. It was not close, unfortunately, for them there.
Also, to try and compensate a few games that lasted a long time, we had this one to just speed run it as well.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, well, today's the last day of groups, and all games are extremely important. We already have a few tiebreakers for tomorrow, so you can expect this tomorrow as well on the NLC regarding Group A. But what happens on Group B? Well, this is the schedule. We're going to start with DMG versus Rich Gang, who are leading the pack, followed by Chaos versus Venomcrest. I believe this is going to be an extremely interesting game. Ruddy will take on DMG. Rich Gang will face off Chaos later on. And to wrap up the day, it will be the team that won the previous split versus the team that wanted to win the previous split. So with that in mind, Ruddy will face off Venomcrest with a different roster though for both teams.
It still feels personal though. It's just because of nameplates it feels personal though. And like the names behind the orgs are still the same, so.
And theoretically, that could be quite a big game there as well. And of course, Ruddy Sack had that the roster switch issue last time, which had them end up dropping that game to Rich Gang, who are currently in a very comfortable position. I think with their schedule for today, they could well be looking at a 4-0 week and cementing themselves as top one in the group. But then you're looking at probably, for me at least, Venomcrest and Ruddy Sack being the next two contenders. And that means that if both games before that go to plan, that last game could well be a second place decider. And when that matters for your playoff seeding in terms of everyone's going to playoffs, yes, but the top two from each group get a better shot in playoffs in terms of where they are. That match for me then really, really matters.
Agree 100%. So this is what you can expect for today. This is the menu, and obviously we were trying to pick what we think is the best food for today. Casters have no idea what they're doing, so might as well show predictions. On this split, we're not putting points, okay? But look at this. Look at this. You know
Who
what I
copy
have
and
to say
pasted my
about this?
predictions?
100%. I'm scared of this. I'm scared.
That's gonna be an upset. That's gonna be a big upset. Oh, they're so unaware. Look at these names. They just don't know what's coming.
I complete tangent here, but why is Jamada giving the most vicious side eye of all time in his picture? Like, who is he looking at like that?
Look at us. I'm happy. Salari's happy. You're complaining.
So normal.
Darkling is Darkling. But Jamada, though.
That is some diabolical side eye.
I'm scared.
And what you gonna do about it? You're just jealous.
It's very true.
Because I am. I know I am.
I know, me too, it's true. This is just me, you know, being
Do you
sad
know
about
who
Adrian,
you
apparently.
are? Salari, do you know who you are?
That's a good question. No.
But do you know who I am?
Oh no, this is a game setup. I know this man.
No.
Look at that smile. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously we like to play a few games, and look at this, even the camera shifted. So for those of you back at home who have no idea what is happening, we like to play a few games on NLC. We didn't do it on the previous week. We were saving you for this week. You can participate on chat and you can spam the chat. I know moderators hate me, but this is the opportunity to actually be a little devil. You can play as a Teemo. So what I'm going to do is play a game of Who Am I? Pixel Edition. What is happening is a little square will appear on the screen and you have to tell me what item it is. Okay.
Oh no, I don't know all the new items as well. Oh no.
I wouldn't do that to you.
Yes, you would.
Yes, you would. You would absolutely do it.
So you raise your hand and you let me know the answer. If you get the answer correct, you'll get 1 point. If you get it wrong, I'll actually take 1 point away from you. Keep in mind, both of you, okay? By the end of the split, the desk with the most amount of wins will get a special prize bought from me. It's not from production, it's from me. Okay? We ready?
I mean, I don't know how much I trust your gift giving abilities.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's
No, I
not
got good
a
gifts
gym
from him,
session of
actually.
leg day.
Hey, man, I've
Obviously.
still got that really alarming T-shirt from a Mere Masters I won with the really scary cat picture on
yo-yo.
it. You got the that's true. Actually, I take it back.
Yeah.
I do trust your gift giving abilities. I
There
want this
you
gift.
go.
I take
Finally.
it back. I have to think this one through, but I'm there.
I'm actually giving good gifts. Well, first item. Let's show everybody what it is. Oh? What is this item? Tic tac.
Is it an item? Imagine it's not an item at all.
It is an item. The game of the show is item edition. Raise your hand.
No.
Okay, Solari. No.
Okay.
Solari. Wait.
No,
Solari?
I don't think so. Not enough purple.
Not enough purple. Okay,
Not
initialize.
enough
Do you know what it
purple.
is? Do you know what it is? You want to take a guess?
Do I lose points if I get it wrong?
Nah.
Yes.
I'm giving you this one.
Oh.
In the beginning, there's no points, so yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Do it.
Okay, is it Nash's tooth? I don't think it is.
Oh, initialize out of the blue. Already doing a wrong one. That's a minus one. Let's
Okay,
give him
okay.
a few pixels. Let's give him a few pixels.
Yeah.
A few pixels. Oh, there's more purple.
Oh,
Solari.
There's more purple. Is it Black Fire Torch?
Now we're talking, Solari. Congratulations. You won nothing because it's wrong.
Yay!
It's wrong.
oh, I know what it is. I don't remember the name. Oh, what's
More
the name?
What do you
pixels. More
mean?
pixels. More pixels.
I think I know what this is. It's I can't remember the name.
it's-
I know. Me.
Initialize.
It's a boot.
Initialize.
It's a boot.
Is it this? It's the synchronized souls upgrade.
Is it production? It's a
Yes!
goal! You
It's
get
the
1 point
boots!
initialize. The boots. 1 point for
It was
initialize.
purple.
That was a lot of purple, Solari.
Oh,
enough.
I can't remember what they were. I just can't remember seeing that Quinn was buying them for a while. It was silly. It
Let's
wasn't that
make
good on
this
that, but people were buying it.
interesting. Second item of the show.
I know this one.
Wait.
Initialize. He knows it. He knows
Let's
it.
curse.
Now we're talking. 2 points coming in for initialize straight off
There
the
we
blue.
go.
It is Blood Letters Curse. What
There
a
we
lovely
go.
black cleaver
It's such
for
a funny
mages.
looking one.
It is.
It's not as good as Arena. It was really good in Arena.
Arena was so good.
It
Arena
was.
was so good.
I
well,
want that
you have
version
2
of the
points to
item.
initialize. Keep in
Thank
mind,
you.
you'll win a prize if you get this right. Third item of the show, it is.
Oh my god, it's how
no,
are you
it's
called?
not that
It's
one.
the-
It's not that one.
It is the one. It's the one that gives you the additional words as a support. Gosh. I know the item, I don't know the name. Oh my god.
I don't think
Oh,
that's
hang
the
on.
one.
Is it gonna? It's not gonna be a component, is it?
I don't know.
Like, do we have components too?
I don't know.
You can't be that evil.
No.
Or can you?
Eh?
It
No,
could
the
be.
person who made the game should be at fault. Not me. I made the game.
Gosh, I'm sure it's that item. Shh, shh.
More pixels in 3,
Oh,
2, 1. What's this item? Makes it even harder.
Watchful something. Watchful.
Watchful?
Watchful.
Watchful?
Watchstone?
Oh.
It's
Is
a
it
watchful
watch-
something.
Okay,
Watchful
more
Wardstone.
pixels. What? Initialize?
what's the Wardstone?
It is Watchful Wardstone.
Thank you for that. I always remember the last one. I got a
I
small
was
item.
literally that close. Oh.
You're helping him,
I
Solari.
kept wanting to call Sightstone because it's like the old warding item from like way before all the item reworks. It's like it's not that one.
Well, 3 points for initialize. We still have 2 more in the bag. Next item will be worth 2 points, and the last one will be worth 3
hate you.
points.
Ooh,
Always.
I like this color scheme.
There's a few purple, a little pink.
Hey, a lot of nice
and,
pink.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose points. The problem now, so I was gonna let Solari guess.
Can it be Riftmaker by any chance?
No.
He's not. answering.
Riftmaker? No.
No, it's not Riftmaker. More pixels. More pixels. We gotta give
More
it more
pixels.
pixels.
Oh.
She knows.
No, I don't know.
Wow.
I may have an idea.
What was that reaction?
I'm not sure if I know actually. Wait. It has
More
to be out of the support
pixels
item, no?
in 3, 2, 1. What's this item?
Oh!
It's the support item!
I don't buy this item like ever.
I buy this item, I don't remember.
If I say, I know
did
what
this
it
on
is. It's the weird,
purpose.
cute creature thing. I just never know the name of it. I just go, it's that weird creature thing. That's bad.
You know what? More pixels. More pixels.
Something maker. Something maker.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, there's no more pixels. With the pixels we have today.
Dream maker?
Dream maker what?
Dream maker.
He lost it.
Dream maker.
Do you want to lock in? Because if you get it wrong,
okay, you know what? How much do I lose if I get it wrong?
2 points. You get 2 points for winning, 2 points for losing.
Okay, I'm
Whoa.
gonna hold on.
Saladi, do you want to take a guess? Or initialize, we'll lock it in.
Lock it in.
Lock it in, initialize. Lock it in. What do you
Yeah, I'm
think
gonna
it is?
go Dream maker. We'll come in with Dream
Dream
maker.
maker. Well, unfortunately, it is correct, and that's Dream maker. Yeah. So you get.
Really?
Yeah, it's a fluffy thing. It's beautiful. Final one. I think you're not gonna get this one. I don't think you're gonna get this one. Actually, I do, so that's why I.
That's
put it in
just
the last one.
brown. That's brown. The item.
It's a tank item. They all have the same color scheme, except like frag 2.
What's this item? Chat! I want to know what is this item. Chat!
I don't know
Oh, hang on.
Do you want a tip? Do you want a clue?
Do we want a clue?
I'd like
can
some
give you
more
a clue.
pixels, please.
More pixels there.
Yeah.
More
yeah.
pixels. Yeah, this is an easy one now.
Hex plate. What experimental hex plate?
Salari, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to actually try to answer. Tell me, what is this item?
Hex plate.
Is that your final answer?
Of course, no. Yes, it is.
It is? You're gonna call this X-plate, is that it?
Hex plate.
Salari, I would love to give you points, but I can't give you half of them.
I know what it is.
Experimental
Initialize.
hex plate.
Initialize. I give?
I think you give that experimental. I think it's the experimental hex plate.
Experimental hex plate. There you go.
Yeah,
Look at this. I never saw it this close. It's actually really cool.
I'm telling you, they all have the same color scheme when it comes to tank items. They'll have a little bit of green, a little bit of brown, a little bit of blue.
Because remember, we used to have Chem Tank, which was the Zorn version. We don't have
Yes.
that much more, but this is the Pilt over version. So this is the experimental hex plate.
For those of you who are arcane enjoyers, there you go. We're teaching you little things by playing these games, and you know who else teaches us things? Professor Foxdrop. So
Yeah.
you're aware of what happened in the
Amazing.
past? Well, let's
Can't-
listen to Foxdrop.
Welcome, class, to League of Legends-ology NLC edition with me, Professor Foxdrop. First week of games are over. Let's check in with our students and catch up with their grades so far. Los Ratones. I was very excited to have this student in my class this year, and in week 1, they showed us why. A convincing win versus Nord, who are predicted to be a top 3 team in the NLC with 4 ex-LEC players, including legends Santorin and Vizicachi. In that game, Crowney got some early kills, and he absolutely popped off. Was less convincing in their game versus Lundqvist Lightside, however. Very scrappy to begin with, but their superior macro prevailed. Los Ratones get an A for week 1, looking like they're living up to their expectations. Next up is Bulldog at 1-1, but I'm very disappointed. I know this team can do more if they just applied themselves. He lost to Verdant, who had an emergency auto-filled sub, and then they should have lost their second game against Lundqvist Lightside. Credit to their team fighting, bringing that second game back and taking home the dub. To be honest, it was mostly just a throw from Lightside. Bulldog, I want to see more, and I want to see you after class. D. Next up is Nord. Like Bulldog, they're 1-1 in Group A, but they had the displeasure of facing Los Ratones in their first game. It's a little unfair, but I was still expecting to see a little more out of them in that matchup, so that will affect their grade. Their game versus Verdant, however, was very different, Vizicachi came up huge on that Gnar in the top lane. His group project partner Treats was also great on the Braum. Nord, you get a B, and I expect that to grow throughout the split. Our third and final 1-on-1 team in Group A is Verdant. They were a very pleasant surprise in Group 1. Their win versus Bulldog cannot be understated. Their sub jungler Maxi was auto-filled into mid lane playing Xerath. Their mid laner Ronaldo picked tank Jace top. It came up to class with their homework unfinished, but it didn't stop them from excelling. As we mentioned, they played versus Nord, which they lost, but considering the caliber of that team, it's somewhat acceptable. Verdant get a C+. Our last team in Group A, and sadly for them, the only team unable to pick up a win in the first week, Lundqvist Lightside. The academic expectations for the student were somewhat tepid coming into the split, but I actually liked a lot of what I saw from them. Playing versus Los Ratones will never be easy, but they definitely gave them a run for their money early on in the game. And against Bulldog, Lightside had a commanding early game lead thanks to a beautifully executed lane swap. Unfortunately, they chucked it all away by overforcing and earned their second loss. Despite their 0-2 record, however, placing them at the bottom of Group A, there's definitely some potential here. C-. Let's move on to Group B now, and the only 2-0 group here is not the Ruddy Sack, but Rich Gang. Rich Gang more than passed in their first week here at the NLC, especially considering one of their games was against the Ruddy Sack. Should be said though, the Ruddy Sack didn't have their full roster. They had Yamato Cannon subbing in for leader. But regardless, it was a very decisive showing with Banderas and Nyx earning their distinctions. A game versus Venom Crest afterwards, however, was less than decisive. A very close game until it came to those team fights at the 30-minute mark. This time it was their bot laner Nomi popping off on the Varus, proving that this team has multiple threats. Rich Gang are certainly going to be a team to watch. They get a B+. Speaking of Venom Crest, our first 1-on-1 team here in Group B, they were a very pleasant surprise. This roster is mostly filled with rookies, and in their game versus DMG, they absolutely destroyed. Once they hit that 15-minute mark, they took the lead and they never looked back. And as we previously mentioned, their game against Rich Gang was close until it wasn't. C+. What happened then to our super team, the Ruddy Sack? There are some mitigating factors in their loss versus Rich Gang. They weren't at full strength. But regardless, it was a disappointing showing when you have the likes of Perks and Yankos on your team still. Against Chaos, however, they were exceedingly dominant, especially in their macro plays. Certainly more of what we were expecting to see from this student in this semester, but Chaos didn't show a lot of life in week 1, so we'll see if the Ruddy Sack can continue to do that versus tougher opposition. I am expecting much more from the Sack, but so far, B-. DMG are our final 1-on-1 team from Group B, and with the foundation of Bucci and Bitzer, two of our returning eggheads from NLC last year, they would have a decent roster. Their loss versus Venom Crest, however, was extremely one-sided, and their only win was against Chaos, who haven't shown us too much so far. Certainly room for improvement if they apply themselves. I'm just hoping I won't have to hold them back a year. C-. The last team to mention today, Chaos. They joined Lundqvist Lightside in the 0-2 jail. They didn't show us too many positives, although a game versus the Ruddy Sack will always be tough. It's the loss versus DMG that really stings though, especially considering how they didn't look too competitive. Chaos gets a D. Very early days here in the NLC, and all of our students have plenty of time to fix their grades. Week 2 starts on Wednesday, 6 PM CET. Be there.
And I'm still wondering why Foxdrop has that sort of aura, but he appears on desks wearing a pajama.
I just
Why
think
is it blazer? Why is it never out of all the desk days?
We need that blazer.
Yes.
But between Middlecott and Foxdrop, I just think nearly every level of the British education system is in trouble now. Look who's teaching. Like this is a problem.
Wait, you were the teacher, weren't you?
I was. In Japan,
And Duckling is a teacher. Middlecott is a teacher. Foxdrop was a teacher. I was a teacher. This is concerning.
those who can't teach cast.
Talking about that, first game of the day, Rich Gang versus DMG. Are you ready to rumble? Butchie, Bitsit, Bisgard, Faitski, and Komski versus Banderas, Nix, Nami, and Eski. This will be the game for today. We have to talk about this because in all reality, Rich Gang are the updated favorites of Group B.
Updated. I don't think, like, even in what Foxdrop just showed us, they were like B+, I think, right, in his rating? Still above anybody else in the group. But yeah, they are the updated leader in the Group B, because I think the majority of people were looking at the Ruddy, maybe partially Venom Craze, but Rich Gang had such a strong performance in their week 1, and honestly, looking at their schedule, they have highest chances of going undefeated throughout both of the 2 first weeks, just like Los Ratones in Group A.
Yeah, they've already taken down the sort of final boss, such as it was in Ruddy Sack last week. Again, that was with a caveat. There was the roster shifts and all things going on there that made that game a little bit more of an unusual than anything else. But they still got the win there, and it sets them in a great position for this one. I think DMG are better than they showed. I just don't know whether Rich Gang are going to be the team that will give them the win that they desperately need. Because I actually think as a result of last week, DMG are not in the easiest spot this week either, because they've got Rich Gang, who are theoretically going undefeated this week, assuming they pick up the wins that they should do. And then they've also got Ruddy Sack, so they are in a difficult spot. That said, we know Butchie and Bitsa from last year, who actually had a pretty good showing in NLC. The problem is, they are now in a league where the level of performance has just gone way higher, and we'll have this conversation again when we get to Chaos, but it is not easy to just be an ERL level talent in the NLC this time around. We have got former Worlds caliber players here, some of the most veteran players in League of Legends, period. That is a massive step up just in terms of the experience, if nothing else, but theoretically the level of play too. And that's great in some ways, because Butchie and Bitsa and Komski and all these people we thought were playing well last year have now got increasingly hard iron to sharpen themselves again. And, you know, not to quote Game of Thrones too much, but iron sharpens iron. It is, however, only week 2. How much sharpening can they have done so far?
I agree. And when you look into DMG and the power they have from previous week, I kind of have the feeling it's like a dog chasing a car, but getting confused when they have that card. Like, aha, we got you, but what do we do with it? Like, when they were able to get any sort of leads, they got confused and they fumbled. You know? I know this is a weird analogy, but
yeah,
I know where you're going with this. Yeah. They definitely overreached a few times, and I think part of the problem is when they are overreaching is problematic, because things like Atakan coming in, especially when you now have multiple significant objectives spawning very close to each other, Atakan into Dragon, Herald into Atakan, Herald into Atakan into Baron sometimes, it all goes crazy wild. You can have these single team fights that now become even more crushing. So for DMG, I need them to play some of these mid games a little slower and a little bit more heads up. Otherwise, the punishment could be really big.
One of the names we highlighted from DMG obviously was Butchie and the way he performed on the previous split. But when you look into today's split, is he reliable as they need him to be? Obviously facing Banderas, it's not an easy matchup, but I believe the action will be focused on the top side.
I think that we haven't seen much from Butchie yet, right? Because so far in the previous week, he only played Xante, which is literally the safest probably pick that you can go, regardless of what the rest of the team composition is looking like for you. I would love to see more from him, because I truly believe that judging from the previous experience of Butchie, we can expect more from him, and I want to see him on the champions that have a little bit more active role on the field. But so far, I actually don't know how he's going to look versus Banderas today. Do you initialize? Because I don't.
I think it's interesting because, of course, Butchie was one of those players who, yes, would still default towards things like the Xante and the Gnar, those kind of low resource, but if you do get the resources, you can really take over the game in terms of your ability to be a real space and pressure taker. That said, I think Banderas on the other side is a player who has also been able to match someone like Bucci quite a lot and has honestly had the team support him a little bit better. He was able to pull out something like the Fiora last week. And yes, Bucci's got things like the Gwen and stuff in the back pocket, but I don't think it's a game where you can just blind pick a Cassante or blind pick a Gnar and not expect someone like Banderas to have an option into it. Yes, lane swaps make that a bit tricky to go for the pure 1v1 answer because you can just get out of it in the current meta. That said, I still think Bucci is good. I don't know how easy it will be for him to show that today against Banderas as someone who may well have a few answers to his normal staples.
So for all of those who are wondering what is happening, we just have a small delay before we jump back into Champion Select and start the day of Group B. Obviously, high anticipated, because we can either have a lot of ties or just be clean, and tomorrow we'll only have 3 games from Group A. There were 3 ties on Group A, for those of you who are not aware, but for Group B, we still have a lot going on for today. Starting this match, just a small delay on the tournament realm itself, and as soon as possible, we'll jump into that Champion Select. When we look into both teams now, we can discuss this. What sort of priority are we watching? Because we saw Skarner being led through
Why?
on previous week.
Why?
Don't do that!
I don't think that should happen again, but aside
No.
from Skarner, let's forget about the Scorpion. What else? For both these teams, Cassante could be a highlight, yeah.
High priority for the top laners for sure, especially looking back for a second at Banderas. If we give him something that can solo kill on the lanes, that can be a menace on the side lanes later on, I think that's not something that is allowed to happen if DMG want to have a very short at it.
I think that's fair. I think I would also say that for the side of DMG, if you are wanting to avoid some of the pitfalls that maybe caught them out in that game 1, having clear go buttons, clear comm lines in terms of this is what my character does, this is what my champion does, and that makes it very obvious in terms of how these fights are supposed to be shaped and called, makes it a lot easier for them. Because actually for Bitzer, for Bucci, being on things like Cassante with what was it, the Syndra and the Varus looking at the scoreboards just over on my side screen there. You know, it's very obvious what happens there. You find a target and you throw everything at them, you blow them up, and you play the rest of the fight with the man advantage. It's great from there. It's a lot easier to execute than maybe some of those ones where you're asked to play a little bit more back and forth, pick your moments a bit better, and that would be my way I'd want to see from it. On the other side, for the side of Rich Gang, thank you very much. Sorry, it took me a second. You have got people like Nyx. I think I didn't know their game as well. Some of these players like Hor as well, I've seen around a little bit, but they've got a few more players who I think are potentially less of a known quantity to some people in this scene, but have been quite good for a long time. And if they are playing things like Viego and Victor, you can have a few more options in terms of who you want to take the lead as a damage carry, as a threat. You can do that from jungle, you can do that from mid lane. I think Ragnar as well actually had a pretty good week as well, even if he is someone that people have seen a little bit more around the UK and NLC scene in general. And that could be pretty good fun to watch there from that team too.
Yeah, I was taking a peek at the damage, and Banderas obviously has a lot, haha, as well, but Nomi and Ragnar were the ones picking up the bag, especially Nomi. Like, we're talking about 33% above in terms of damage. That's extremely high for an AD carry, especially when you play with the Varus, where you have to play face-to-face with the enemy, unless you're playing with a Comet we saw yesterday, which was not that fruitful, obviously. So, like, what are you doing? But for damage, though, DMG... I look into the roster, and I look into the champion pool, and they kind of share a lot of them with the Wei, with the Varus, the Cassante, obviously, with the Vi, all of that. Only Komsky is the one that really wants to engage, but I don't think he had that big of opportunity to do so on the previous week. So maybe DMG are still looking for their playstyle. And it takes a little bit of time, but you don't have that time right now.
No. On the second day, like, you don't have time at all, unfortunately. If you don't find your footing today, and if you don't take some victories today, you're falling into the losers bracket, and you don't want to be ending up there, because you still will have to try to cut your way through those strong teams, but this is going to be so much harder for you, because any wrong step that you take may result in you just leaving the competition for good.
I agree.
I think the other side on this as well is, for Rich Gang, you're in a great position but just don't screw it up. You need one win, and you're locked top 2. Just make it happen. You've taken out that direct opponent in Ruddy Sack, at least theoretically. Of course, it could also go wrong. Hell, Ruddy Sack could go 0-2 and mess up all of our predictions. It's happened before. I don't want to give that kind of juju out there. I'll get some angry messages from Don Jake and Regan and stuff later. But the point still stands, right? That your job's not done. And I think DMG are a good enough team, and a lot of those players will have seen these guys around. It's not like these are unknown players or unknown caliber of players to people like Bitsubuchi, Kamsky. They were playing at this kind of level before, that you could still mess this up. You could still lose this game and make your lives quite a lot harder. And I think for DMG in that regards as well, then, if you can take this win, if you put yourself in a much better position, and you could get into Rich Gang's head, because if they come in a little bit overconfident after their week 1, they could still end up slipping up here.
I'm getting information that the players are about to jump into Champion Select. Everything is okay right now. We just needed to redo the lobby so we could jump in. And I agree with you 100%. If DMG are capable of taking this game, not only you get into the head of Rich Gang, but also gives you a 2-1, tying up versus Dim out of a sudden. And then Ruddy getting that 1-1. Maybe if they win a game, boom, 2-1, and everybody's tied up, and the group just gets a lot more interesting. Rich Gang versus DMG. We start Champion Select with Maokai being removed, Skarner as well. Now, where are the other ones? Like the Kalista, the Vados, the usual suspects showing up.
The Vi to remove it from Nyx, the Jace exactly to remove it from Bucci. So the picks and bans are looking rather similar in so many cases throughout these first 2 weeks, but it's because we have like a certain pool of champions. Victor, who else is there? Way most likely. I mean,
Way an
honestly.
option. I think the Skarner obviously is nearly non-negotiable, but then there's some conversations about things like Aurora, Kalista has been really strong and very high priority as a ban. But it's also a question, especially at this level, about whether you can execute, because Kalista has very, very strong win conditions, but they're quite narrow. They are, I snowball early game really, really hard. I set up my support to dive really, really hard, but we need to play through this and we need to get the first set of objectives and gold lead happening pre-plates falling, or why have you picked this champion? And they go towards the Varus that Solari shouted out. I think that's a valuable ban. I think especially against Nomi, who had, 11-0 game on it last week alongside Horse Way. You just don't want to deal with that, so I can understand getting rid of that very potent champion in the current meta.
Vi is still available, as we discussed, so the Varus is out, but the jungler is in. But outside of Vi, also Wukong. Is that a highlight? No, that's actually a bit. We lost her. We lost her.
All right. Well, Solari has been bought and paid for. I see how it is.
It's cursed.
Banderas. I see you.
But it wasn't the right
a bit later
skin,
in the year. What did I know?
It wasn't the right
was
skin.
not. Yeah, at least that.
There are 2 right skins, so.
Oh, are there? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a conversation. But the thing is, on the other side, I think the Vi makes some sense, but I will say that DMG on the whole have really preferred those heavy go buttons with the Vi's, the Leonas, the Rels. Swain is one of the better options into that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get outburst if you fall behind, but assuming you're even or ahead, Vi can be really miserable to play into, because you go diving into that demonic ascension, all those kind of like AoE burn. It is not fun. I see the Neela Hover, and please don't lock that into Swain right now. I think Corki is fine. But similarly, that's a champion. This is not the Corki of old where you sit there and you rocket spam, you Valkyrie, and you use your Gatling gun. You're looking for a lot closer range burst. But that's playing quite well into things like this way. And if a lot of the Wukong as well, similarly, you can manage people who dive onto you quite well with that combo. I'm pretty happy with Rich Gang's answers here into the DMG expected playstyle.
Because so far they have really great disengage options. They're happy with DMG going into them if they continue with this draft. At the same time, they're also able to force their own fights with the Wukong, and especially if Banderas gets this viewer right now, they're going to have so many options about how they want to approach the game. For DMG, we need to see more. I want to see something that is not just pressing the R button and going straight forward. I want to see something with more range. So looking at Beastguard, most likely this is where this range is going to come from, or at least I hope so.
It allows you to now at least counterpick it to the top lane and be safe, because all the bans were straight to Jace and Xante. Only those are out versus the Gnar. Bucci has some options if he wants to. So let's see. He hovered the Renekton at the beginning. Might as well lock that in and then be safe.
There's kind of been a conversation about this, and I was watching some of the Lost Returners scrims like early this afternoon, actually, and there was a bit of a discussion happening about, like, look, I think Bousy at the time was scrimming with Quinn and going, look, Quinn from ahead or even feels incredible right now. But in Pro, when is that ever going to happen on a regular basis? Because you see the Quinn, you go, I'm just lane swapping that. I don't want to deal with that. And then you end up in a much trickier position. Renekton and Gnar are two of your better low economy carries. You can get a lot of value on basically no CS, just off your raw abilities being really useful. And I understand why that's being locked in right now before the bans come on through. It's a solid enough matchup into a Gnar, and you can deal with it if the lane swap does come on through, which might be an option here for either team still.
And even if there is no lane swap in the end, you have such a strong top map priority with Vi and Renekton together, you should be winning by default most of the fights for the grabbies and for the early objectives on the top part of the map. So yeah, I am loving this Renekton for DMG.
Ooh, they don't
that's
believe. Mate, well, you can play the way on the bot side as well. You still don't know where the Swain is going to land up. We've seen Swain in the mid. We've seen Swain as a support back in the day. I don't know if that's going to be the pivotal matchup, but now is focusing on the mid lane. The Yari as well being removed. Let's see what Zell as the coach coming in from Rich Gang is going to remove. It's going to be the Braum.
Braum can still be a bit of a nightmare for Swain. You can block a lot of his damage. He gets stunned up and it's not quite so fun. Leona is an interesting one. You are okay until your W runs out, and Leona goes in, and then her getting away can be a challenge once things like Riot Lines come in on top. Yeah, you get to a point where you don't get to just walk out of going
with
on
Wukong
in.
and Swain, yeah, no, it's a one-way ticket, brother.
Yeah, and I feel like it's looking like a fairly okay angle for the Swain bot lane should they choose to do that, but it's still strictly a flex, and we'll wait on it. I think on the other side for Bizgob, we saw the hover of it earlier from Rich Gang. They know it's an option, but reminder, he's a big Echo player. Big Echo player. I think it's also a big win rate. I'll check it out. Yeah, he's 12 and 7 all time on the Echo. It's the second most played champion behind things like the Tristana, which of course was so meta for the last couple of years. It was kind of inevitable. You saw a lot of it. So they're kind of well aware that's an option. If you lock in this Galio, you've got a really beefy, brawly comp. You're lacking
Really
an AD carry, and they lock it in.
It is.
Gnar is effectively de facto your ranged auto attacker now, but that is going to lock in the Swain bot lane, and you are a brawly comp.
You don't even need the range unless DMG are going, okay, if they go with Azir, that actually changes things a little bit, because a part of that Azir, DMG are suffering from the same issue. They have a lot of guys who want to be going and having a close-up fight with the enemy. They don't have anybody with solid range. Now Bizguard finally locking in this Azir for the mid lane. That makes things a little bit more interesting for DMG, gives them more options in terms of how they want to be approaching the bigger fights. But I would still say that Rich Gang are looking mighty scary right now with this draft.
I think it's really telling.
Tell me.
I mean, like, look, I think it's really telling that they first pick the Swain and just say, look, DMG, you're going to be doing a dive comp. You've gone for Vi, Leona, even things like the Corki. I mean, the Renekton's a melee champion as well. That's 4 very close range champions. I think the Azir helps add a ranged option there. But 4 out of those 5 champions, and even the Azir, if he's going for a shuffle, are going to be going melee range. And you're doing that into Nautilus, into Wukong, into Galio. Hi, Archeron. We just want to see more of your face. Swain as well. Like, that is not a fun comp to be diving into. I think there may be some issues in terms of sieging turrets. But if you get grubs / just big team fights, will it matter?
Agree 100%. So that's why the question ensues. Who's gonna win? I just need a name. A name.
Swain.
It's a name. She's right. Initialize.
It's just
you can't say everything.
Memes. We're 2 days into the broadcast together, Solari, and okay.
I
somewhat agree. It's actually very true. I did. This is my fault, and I apologize.
Give me a name.
Profusely. That said, DMG. No, sorry, DMG. Rich Gang. I lied. Rich Gang is the way forward. DMG are in trouble.
He is back. He's afraid. He's afraid. Who's not afraid to jump into the 7th sprint? Well, our casters. It is Duckling, the lovely little boy, and Jamada, the assassin.
You know, I am now 21, Asha. I have grown up quite a bit since the first time we worked together. That's a fact, and I think same goes for you, Jamada. Also gotten a few years older since we first worked together. So how are you feeling about this draft here between these two Norwegian powerhouses going up against each other?
Yeah, Norwegian derby here in the NLC to open up our second day of festivity, I suppose to call it. And yeah, I think we've got one very interesting draft in particular from Rich Gang, flexing the Swain bot to Nomi. Obviously, something that if you followed Nomi before, you're aware he's a bit of a mage player from seasons gone past. So kind of interesting. It's going to be a bit scary in some ways to see how they actually navigate this, because with Ho being put on the Galio, their damage profile generally is going to be on the kind of lower end. They're going to be relying a lot more on their, AoE CC, trying to blow up the core, high value targets that can DPS their front line down, specifically Bizgard, who on the opposite side for DMG, I think has got a lot of pressure on his shoulders, right? The Corki, his damage profile and how he does damage has changed significantly recently, right? Whereas Azir still that exact same DPS champion, right? Corki, yes, he's about getting the auto attacks in, but this kind of composition, you're close enough to auto attack, even like pop a Q, you're close enough to maybe get knocked up by Wukong, definitely dredgelined by Nautilus. It's a very, very scary day to be a Corki against this kind of composition.
Yeah, a high-stakes game, no doubt about that, as both of these Norwegian organizations obviously want another win on the board. Each win so crucial, Jamada, with just 4 to play for in this seeding stage. The big note here today for this first game is if Rich Gang win, they have a locked first seed out of Group B, meaning the Ruddy Sack would have to find themselves a different seeding out of this group, and Rich Gang would continue to, as their motto goes, shatter expectations, taking that first seed out of Group B.
Yeah, exactly. Fairly high stakes here for Rich Gang. Win the game. That's it. You're just first seed in the group. And you lose. Keep that carrot dangling in front of Ruddy Sack for a couple of more hours. Sure, you'd always want to secure first. So, again, does make me, not question, but make me wonder how much, confidence they have to pull out something like this in the game of the day.
Yeah, and I think Rich Gang, right, a team coming in, you would expect oozing with confidence after what was a very successful week 1. There is just that one asterisk of that game against the Ruddy Sack, right? Being with Yamato Cannon playing that own top lane, that kind of does put a dent in what was a very impressive win otherwise, as small trading occurs down here in the bot lane. Fateski taking quite a bit of damage actually, but I mean, still able to sit here and lane. You mentioned Nomi before as a big mage player. He's also a serial winner in Norway, having 5 Norwegian titles in his what has been a very long and successful career, mainly in the Norwegian scene.
Exactly. So, it's not that I don't have confidence in him to pilot it, but again, haven't seen much Swain. Well, we have seen Swain here in the NLC already, and if I recall correctly, it did end up losing. It was the Lost Ratonas game last night. Played against Lost Ratonas, rather, but it was very, very threatening. See the power once it starts to scale up, and more importantly, again, if you don't burst it down. Aren't able to kill Swain very quickly once he pops that Demonic Ascension. It's very difficult to deal with, but on the game, it's been quiet so far. 3 minutes. Junglers both pathing top the bot, so kind of know where both these teams want to play around in the early stages. Curious about how this early Scuttle contest might end up going, though, because, of course, in the mid lane, you can kind of peek over. Bizgard is getting pushed in when you take a look at the minimap, and it's to be expected when you know the matchup. But hey, bottom side action.
Rich Gang first in that rotation. Komsky the one in trouble. The Portuguese support looks to go down here as first blood comes through. And despite the patch notes, we are still on 15.1. That does mean it's just the first blood that counts for the feat of strength still, as that is 1 out of 2 completed for Rich Gang, who get off to a flying start here in game 1.
Get off to a flying start. Very, very good pick. And as you kind of mentioned, it seemed like DMG were trying to rotate up to maybe get Bits a bit more of a favorable position on that bottom side Skull Crab, but it just wasn't meant to be. And now gone for the top side one, and he's getting a bit pincered.
Yeah, does manage to get that Scuttle. The CC comes through from Ho, but in the end, they were just there to try and annoy and delay Bits a bit, as the tempo advantage certainly on Nyx. If we manage to go out into a late game here, worth noting that both teams sitting on 3 teleports here, Jamada as well, so we'll be keeping our eyes on those macro movements. I think something Lost Ratones got a lot of talk about yesterday after they successfully, you could say, out macroed Burton in a game where they were actually slightly behind early on.
I'm out behind, in fairness, in terms of pressure. Uchi.
I mean, he might have overstayed his welcome here. Banderas definitely won this, and despite being 1 level down, the solo kill could come through. The clock flashed away from as Banderas forces it out of Bucci, and the pause comes through. The NLC All-Pro top laner here might question a bit about his setup. I don't know what went wrong, but that did not look good for Bucci.
Yeah, it didn't for the time being. We'll wait to get confirmation on what we can get from why the pause has come through. But yeah, early pause, not the worst thing in the world. Normally you get them out earlier, right? You never want to see a a pause 25, 26, 27 minutes into the game. It's high octane. It pulls you out of the game, right? And even players will say that as well. So early pause just to let the players relax a little bit after what's been a quiet laning phase so far. Only, of course, RG getting that first blood on Tonomi.
Yeah, technical difficulties never seem to stop coming here, right, in League of Legends. That is just a regular case. There was a saying back in the day in the old Danish scene that you could never start a game without a pause. And that seems to sometimes drag into the NLC as well, right? I even got exposed for wearing glasses, so it's an absolute disastrous start here for me at the very least, as I've been caught red-handed. Regardless, though, very big game. I think if we are talking a bit more about DMG here, this is something we discussed a bit in the draft, right? I mean, the Azir can have a lot of agency here, and Bisco, he's the rookie on this DMG roster, and despite DMG having an up and down week one, he was the player who stood out, having a good game one, being quite fed actually on that way. Not enough to win the game, but I mean, he has to step up going into week two as well as DMG, desperately trying to secure themselves a good seeding here out of Group B.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, just this game, understanding what his role is going to be. So many times you'll see, especially champions like Azir, if you've got a champion that can kind of do 2, maybe even 3 things sometimes, right? In the case of Azir, it's either you just play front to back, or you play for the shuffles, right? And of course, League's contextual. Sometimes the fight's going to play out, you know you have to go for a shuffle, or you know you're going to have to DPS. This is one of those games where Vizgard ever shifts forward, it's going to be a little bit strange one, as this 2v2's going pretty
a lot
far.
of damage, and Eski actually, the flash forward as well. Faceski wants this and will pick it up as well. DMG now on the board as Nomi continuing this fight. The Conqueror stacked up for both of these carries here as Nomi somehow still fishing. Does have Nyx in the area as well. The Galley ultimate coming in as well. Komski caught out, no flash, and will be taken down by Ho. Bitze not able to rotate as he was on that Drake, and that would be the silver lining here for DMG.
Yeah, DMG get the Dragon bot lane action going on. Guys, I'm securing the objective. Don't worry about whatever the hell goes on. But it was a 2v2, I suppose, just to contest. The priority here is Bucci. He's hit level 6. Bandera's
he's on a ward though.
Ooh.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Mega now. W auto just needs to come through. You'd think the kill would be there, but he can't quite close the gap. Bandera's keep running, little one. The double jump now coming through as Dominus has been popped, but the space has been created, and Bandera's will waddle his way out to safety. Oh, that must be horrifying for Bucci. So close, yet so far.
So close, but so far. I mean, how does he not get the auto of that?
Ooh, more action though, as Eski look to be caught out here again. The supports rotating up around these grubs. This is re-engage now coming through. Bandera's rotating down as well as Bitze gets absolutely eviscerated in this fight. Isco, not much to say as Korms is the next target here for Rich Gang. The Emperor's Divide connects onto 3. Fateski showing up as well, surprisingly, as the ADC is there to disengage the fight. Rich Gang pick up one and get control around the grubs.
They get control around the grubs. They should be able to start them off to pick up a couple. Bitze's on the way out, but problem is, I just feel like, for the time being, DMG might not be able to fully contest. Though, lane time, it's a kind of awkward. People have been going, between lanes here. Bucci now, I think, walked halfway down to bot. He's going to have to walk back to the top. Nyx will pick this one up. Seems like he's going to get all 3, maybe. He is level 6. Bitze should ding 6-2 on this red buff. But again, it just doesn't really seem like DMG want to contest this objective, and they'll give it over.
Yeah, I won't give him pay him that visit. Obviously, it's key to keep your eyes on, right? The feats of strength. You need all 3 void grubs count as 1 epic monster. So if DMG able to steal 1, would have denied that. But instead, Rich Game, either a tower or 2 neutral objectives away. This will be a kill. Not towards feats of strength, but towards this, Swain. That many things have been said about this champion on the past few days of the NLC. But I think I'll leave it at that as Nomi continues to scale. These 2 kills certainly setting up for a powerful Swain in this late game.
Yeah, already 1,000 gold ahead of Fateski. He's going to be very, very powerful, as well as a full level, actually. About to hit level 6, about 85, 90% of the way there. Whereas Fateski still hasn't hit level 6. So Swain already, early on in this game, poised to be a problem later on for DMG. And we said for Rich Gang, Nomi was going to be one of the big win conditions, beg your pardon, for this lineup. So to see him already ahead, and DMG not really having anyone super far ahead, is a little bit concerning once we hit that mid-game stage for DMG.
Banderas fishing for this opportunity as these two top laners continue to go head to head. Not quite against the wall, and the emote comes out to signify the sadness in that, but Bucci instead sees the opportunity. He wants to find a solo kill and give some hope here for DMG, but he doesn't have the damage. Try as you might, Bucci, you can't cut through this monster.
Yeah. Very exciting top lane scuffle. Ultimates being exchanged. And like you called out, Banderas couldn't quite get the connection for the ultimate. As this invade looks a little bit sketchy here from Rich Gang.
I might be a bit too far forward. Yeah, Ho quickly there to back them up, as I think Nomi's rotating as well, but keep your eyes on Fatesky and the damage he's taken. He's already down. Bisco jumping right into the front line, too eager to join the action as the Emperor's Divide ends up not sealing a kill instead. Just making way for the DMG escape yet again, though. They're the ones on the losing edge, and this gold lead for Rich Gang starting to grow more and more.
More and more, and just great target selection there from Rich Gang, specifically Ho. Yeah, immediately came down, ignored the melee champions. Fatesky a little bit exposed, just immediately heroic charged onto him, got the taunt off, and Nyx was very quick to follow up the opportunistic play. And again, you know, engage looks sketchy. This mid lane 1v1 looks sketchy as well.
Yeah, that flash, big cooldown forced on one of the crucial carries here in DMG. We've already said that there will be a lot of pressure on what is a rookie in the NLC to hit the ground running. DMG, a roster with quite some expectations on them. Not favorites, I want to say, heading into this matchup, but expected to be a close one. And so far, Rich Gang made it very clear, and they've done this all split, you can say so far, that they aren't here to play around. They are looking for that first seed, and a win here would seal it.
They will. Nyx, again, coming back for the blue buff here.
Banderas, I mean, has used the flash, but he is on the wrong end of this lane. Yeah, will be taken down here. The question is who will get the credit and how much time can he buy? I mean, he can buy quite a bit as Bucci gets donated that kill and right on towards the wave. Bot lane, the dive now coming through though. They are cross-mapping and they will claim two yet again. Both of them are Nomi. This Swain continuing to become scarier and scarier. 4-0 on the 5-time Norwegian champion.
Yeah, Nomi, he's picking up all the kill credits here, and we're actually getting the replay now of what happened, and it's a 2v2 occurring between the bot laners, but of course, minimap, well. You can see the teleport from Galio. Ho very quick to pull the trigger, and Nyx was already on this side of the map. It's just a cross-map answer to what's happening on the top side.
Yeah, not much there for Fatesky to do at the end.
No, there isn't. And, you know, it's funny, you mentioned how Bisgard, he's going to be the one with agency. That's later on in the game. Right now, it's Ho with all these first moves, and now they're trying to move on to Nomi.
Yeah, they really want the shutdown, and they want it on Bisgard, but instead, he quickly gets turned around on him, as he's now down to half. Beats are already gone. Komsky just going into the meat grinder that is Rich Gang. This is a horrible fight as the flank coming through as well. This could be all for Bisco looking to escape as 3 has already fallen. The game looks to be slipping through DMG's hands. The kill will be picked up by Ho, and that is a slaughter. The grubs as well, and the goal lead certainly in Rich Gang's favor now.
It's a 4-0 on the top side. Whatever play DMG were looking for, it had to work. And I think that might just be the game breaker, realistically. Nomi's flash is a little bit funky, but it's just one of those kind of flashes that ends up working. Big Spitzer swing and miss with the Vault Breaker. And then again, everyone is just inside of the Swain ultimate. Great little hook catch onto Bucci as well from Nomi, and Ho with those Swifties. And just tier 1 boots for Bisgard. Makes that a very, very easy rundown for Ho to catch up on. 4 kills go over. And you look at the inventories. Obviously, we're talking about the total gold lead. Inventories dire already. Nomi is halfway to a second item before Fatesky's even hit Triforce, and he's got 10 stacks on that Dark Seal. So he is going to be an absolute monster. I mean, he is an absolute monster already, I think.
He's out of this world already, right? I mean, so far hasn't been killed in his 2 NLC games. A brilliant first performance on Nomi last week, and this time as well, right? 5-0-4. He's doing very well in what is his debut NLC split. Has had a bit of time in other ERLs, Prime League and LP LoL in particular, but hasn't found much success. Certainly, though, showing he has the level to compete here in the NLC, as these performances are good. I think Rich Gang as a whole seem to be on the same page. But then again, you know, many of these players have played before throughout different points in their careers, so not many players here unknown towards each other and maybe very quickly just falling into roles and, you know, the puzzle pieces connecting right as they should.
Exactly. RG game is starting to look like, as far as the group's concerned, business as usual for the first opening 2 weeks. Tower drops on the bottom side, and that'll be that feat of strength as well. See when RG decide to cash in on the boots. Been a lot of discourse around them. Personally think they are just not worth the upgrade unless it is one of those situations you just have the perfect amount of gold. As this rotation here from DMG just looking to cover the dive, but RG aren't necessarily looking for it, though Ho was shadowing. But always very present in the early stages of this map so far.
I mean, very eager here. I guess just trying to get control of the wave, but he has to be a bit of a prize in terms of the HP. No TP to get back in. Potentially Nyx, Ho now rotating around as well. The fight seems to be on the card, and they will want to take it. There's a flash and dominance on Bucci. What can he really make out of the situation? But the CC chain is good. The damage not quite there, though. He's able to flash out immediately. Komsky trying to find something as the TP now comes through Banderas. They might have gone a bit too far forward here. Rich Gang as the turret, helping out as DMD, desperately trying to get something, but the HP bars already too big on Rich Gang, and they come out unscathed. Lucky not to lose a member there as they went a bit too far forward.
Yeah, definitely execution mildly botched, right? Couldn't kill Bucci, a little bit too tanky, too much healing. But still, like you mentioned, tower aggro juggling just about good enough to not see anyone drop, and DMG can't capitalize anywhere. No rotations from the rest of the map, and no one was really in a position either to punish, it seems like, on the rest of the map either. So whilst that play, 5-man strong from Rich Gang is going on, not much for a cross map, though. Ho could be in trouble.
If there ever was a time to get a pick, this is now. But what a brilliant cancel there by Ho. Still in a lot of trouble, though, as he will go down. Pisco has taken a bit of damage, but he should be able to claim the kill instead. No, it goes on to Bucci. But in the mid lane, though, there will be a price to pay as Rich Gang continuing their great cross map. Moves these 6 void grubs, helping out as well, as that's the mid lane tier 1 taken down as a response.
I've got to say, if our producers aren't too busy, if our observers aren't too busy, I would love a replay of that buffer on the Galio.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I've never seen a Galio buffer as hero before. I've seen Galio buffer a large amount of things. I can't say I've seen an Azir wall. Very well timed by Ho. Intentional or not, still dies on the side lane, and it is a nice little bit of shutdown gold. But again, just kind of taking a zoom out, look at the state of the game. It still feels pretty bad. It still feels pretty bad. Thank you, Obs, for being so quick on this one.
Oh, let's see it. I don't even know how that happens, to be honest.
I don't know.
It works?
It looks so silly. He basically goes through the terrain.
What?
Well.
And I will say, I think though, if we are to head back to the more serious part, right? That 600 gold bounty could have really been used in Bisco's pocket, but instead falls onto the Renekton, and will fall off later as Rich Gang, with all this control on the map, will even claim the Rift Herald.
It's hard, right? I mean, for me, I've seen Renekton do so many crazy things. I'm not even going to doubt his ability to team fight, but the problem is when you're this far behind, it's like, well, this gold would be great into the Azir, right? That's kind of more how it feels like now.
Yeah.
In the context of how things have unfolded, fortunately for DMG. And, unfortunately for DMG, they're also going to lose this red buff. Again, you can start to see now, as RG take down these outer towers, they're just slowly but surely trying to suffocate this red side team out of their resources when and where they can.
Yeah, the macro movements have been good. There isn't much for DMG to do, it feels like, in this game. Scaling, don't want to say it's on their side, but maybe, just maybe, there's always that sliver of hope, right? That you can find some way back into the game. Both Corki and SC are very strong when you read those late stages, but many of those things can also be said about much of this Rich Gang roster, as Banderas could be caught out here if he oversteps as Pizza comes in. The CC is there, but I don't think they have the damage, and instead, could he try to turn it around? Yes, he will, and he should get it as well. One more auto on Pizza won't be enough. Instead, DMG actually managed to make it work, and they will claim the kill yet again onto Bucci, who should get a turret, but take your eyes over to the cross map. Look at what Rich Gang are doing here. They're sieging down the bot lane. Herald has been spawned, and they want to trade this. 1 turret for 1 seems to be the likely outcome here, as Rich Gang have so much control on this bot side.
Still an uptrade though, right? Because it's that outer tier 2 for the top tier 1. You can see Bucci sticking around on that top side, and Bucci and Bits are very fortunate, I think, in that 2v1, right? Despite Banderas certainly overstepping. That wallop goes off. The tower damage ramp, remember, it takes so long to fall off. Bucci tanking that tower, that extra second of stun could have been the difference between it being a 1-for-1 and a 1-for-nothing. So
Yeah,
still,
most
well played to find that pick, but even in finding those kind of picks, you can see how much RG are making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, if you're really holding on to hope here, if you are a DMG believer, anything to delay the game, right, is something that at the very least gives you more hope. Rich Gang will claim their first Drake of the game here prior to going into the hands of DMG, so stopping that Drake scaling a bit as well and slowing that down, you can say, for Rich Gang, who are 5,000 gold ahead. We are 2 minutes, or 1 minute rather, I should say, away from Archon spawning. I think it is on the top side if I am not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Yeah, the top side. And obviously Baron spawning in 6 minutes as well. So some neutral objectives that can really decide the game. I think if there's anything that can turn around a bad game so far for one of these teams, it is certainly that Archon, right? You know, the reset you get with the withdrawal as well. If it is that red Archon, definitely make the difference.
Love withdrawing here in 2025. Yeah. Withdraw from your problems. That's what the sign of that buff is.
I think it's just broken, man, honestly. That's my opinion on it, right? The fact that you gain so much tempo, you're basically free to just turn off your brain for 2 minutes and make a team-oriented dive. If you get a 3 for 3, you're the one coming out on top. You're only giving away 300 gold, and you're right back on the map in terms of tempo. It is crazy, especially when these pro players know how to utilize that extra tempo well. So let's see what happens when that spawns just about now. But you can also take a look at this 1v1 down on the bot side. Not anyone likely to die, but you know, trading a bit back and forth. Always fun to watch between these two Norwegian players.
Yep, always is. Hoho, despite being on the Galio, so far ahead that the Renekton's probably not going to be a big problem for him unless they try to go in for an extended trade. You can see it's very easy to just disengage, walk away, and RG, whilst all that's going on, pick up the mid lane tier 2. So bastions of safety continue to shrink here for DMG. Looking at the top side now as well, just trying to rotate, get all of these structures down where they can. But the Yeze wave clear, doing its bit just to slow this play down. And I think for the time being, RG might be a bit muted. Look for a play in terms of a pick if someone on DMG steps a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, and just take a look at the items as well, right? Jamada, you can see Nomi 2.5 items, now finding the pick, as you just said, this time on towards Pizza. That's the smite gone, remember, so they could turn their attention towards Archon, but instead they want more of these, as you call them, Jamada. Bastions of safety to be taken down. The map continues to shrink for DMG. Pretty much shoved back into their base at this point, as all the other turrets are gone, and it's looking harder and harder. Bucci, the one who has some gold, some kills in his pocket, trying to do something here against Hoho, but the TP coming through, and that should kind of seal the fate on this 1v1. Who is it coming in? It is Banderas, and he should be able to run down his opponent here in the top lane. As will the Q connect? No, I mean, good flash, and the blast cone gets him closer towards safety. Nomi is trying to run down here as well, though he is just holding that mid lane prio, so Bucci finds a way out, but again, it's these slivers of hope, right? Slivers of hope.
Yeah, slivers of hope. The worst in the world. Nomi is pushing Fatesky back. Banderas is also rotating all the way up.
I mean, big price to pay to get out of safety. You don't want to be caught out there. Bisco even forced the TP back as he was unsure that people were around him. And as he's getting close to that 2-item spike, he still needs a lot more for this year to really get the agency we discussed earlier on in this game, Jamada. I mean, this DMG roster, I had so many expectations and hope for them, but so far it hasn't come to fruition. This could be the turning point, though. Archon has been started. DMG, all 5 members alive. TP available on Bucci as well. Do they choose to take the fight? They are rotating up.
They're rotating up, but I mean, you have to try and kill someone quickly, right? And there's just not really someone to kill 7K. Immediately.
They need to get in there. They don't have vision on it, do they? I mean, how can they even get in there? 3K and dropping. No, they can't see what's going on, and instead they'll be caught out. And already now the withdrawals are there, but I don't think they'll be needed, to be honest. Now Rich Gang can just walk down what feels like victory lane at this point. Double kill for the Swain. 6-0-6, still deathless in his NLC debuts here. Nomi dropping one hell of a performance. Rich Gang can sense that first seed. It is in their sights as Nomi goes legendary on this Swain. A clean, simple fight with Archon and potentially more turns the prize.
Yep, this game going about the way I think we expected it once that top play happened for DMG, right? That felt like their last possible opportunity to maybe find some success in a fight, in a skirmish, but since then, it's been all Rich Gang. They've got the Atacon buff now, and mid lane inhibitor is going to go down. You have 6 grubs as well, mind you. Uchi is about to spawn in 5 seconds, but how much further are they willing to push this? A lot of their armor is still on the path.
They have to fight. I mean, they have to withdraw, right? Rich Gang can force this. Even if they lose all 5, they've gotten a Nexus turret. As now the fight comes through.
Oh,
what
no.
a brilliant hook on B-Score. And he is oh so low already, the flash. And he has to dash out to safety as Nomi continues to go legendary. Now the withdrawals are coming through, but the fight seems to be already won. It's a 2 for 2 as Nyx barely escaping for now. The turret has been risen by B-Score as the claw connects. Bucci is taken down and Nomi continues to build on his impressive scoreline. 9-0, 10-0 now on the Swain as the withdrawal will finally come through. DMG have bought themselves a few more seconds, but this game is all but over.
Oh, man. This buff is silly.
That is broken. It was a 5 for 5, and I mean, the main winners of that, right? Still Rich Gang. All DMG got out of that was 500 gold. That is nothing. That is table scraps, man.
This buff is silly. So silly. I do not envy
Eski, man.
being on the balanced team.
I just
try and find a
remove it, man.
solution for
Just
that.
remove it.
Yeah, I think that's going to end up being the case.
Yeah,
But
and
you can see, it's just such an easy walk now. Once they have the I mean, they're already ahead, right? They would have done this without the buff. But then it's about what happens afterwards in the base. As in the pip, you may have seen, Armsky is Armsky's dead.
yeah, he's caught out, and that will make what is very likely to be the final fight even harder. As Pizza now looking for a pick in a 1v2. It's desperate times here, DMG. They are throwing everything and the kitchen sink towards this, but nothing seems to be sticking. Nothing seems to be working. The Rich Gang are looking for that final fight. The hook connects, the target has been locked down, and B-Score, try as you might, the rookie can't help DMG out of this pickle. Rich Gang continue to turn heads, continue to shatter those expectations as they will lock in first seed in Group B here. They've done what Ruddy Sack couldn't. They've done what no one else in this group could and look to go undefeated. This 3-0 scoreline is all but sealed as DMG. The desperate times didn't lead to anything successful. 25 kills in 25 minutes. First place secured as Rich Gang shatter those expectations into the ground.
Expectations shattered. 3-0 in the group. Excellent game. Not much to talk about, right? Some early concerns perhaps about, you know, not so much the damage profile, but how much or how high this damage ceiling was going to be for this composition. But you snowball a game like that, drafts aren't really going to matter at all. Excellently played, and obviously a lot to talk about specifically with the Swain and Nomi dropping, I think it was a deathless 13-0-10 game. Ho and Nyx as the catalysts to, you know, a lot of those side lane plays, I think also have to be highlighted in the early game snowball. But yeah, excellent game from them, and DMG just could not really find an answer in time. That game was 25 minutes. That was a stomp in every single word.
Yeah, that was a stomp. I think the desk will have a pleasant time talking about what was a very straightforward game. The main takeaway, however, is that first seed now locked for Rich Gang. Every other seed, though, still up for grabs, so the desk will analyze the game and more of the standings right now, actually. Ashram, take it away.
Thank you so much. And as
Actually,
you stated, yeah, it's locked in.
Yeah.
We're going into the desk, and Rich Gang are looking clean. Salati, Swain is an interesting character. That's all I'm going to say. I'm done. But looking into this game whatsoever, you highlighted something on the Champion Select initializing during the green room as we were spectating. You brought it back up. How is Corky supposed to play versus walls?
Like, it's not just walls, it's like an induction to the most nightmarish children's birthday party of all time. It's like, here's the bouncy castle, you can never leave! Just go in here and start bungee jumping up and down until you end up in an early grave. Like, it is a dark, dark time to be a Corky player in that game. Like, I hyperbolize a little bit, but Fate's
Your
Keep is
birthday
always
party
going to have...
scared me, by the way. Your birthday party.
It's like
scared me.
it's a Stephen King written birthday party. Like that's it coming to be the party clown, you know? Pennywise is here. But moving swiftly on to theoretically breaking down the game, I think DMG got read like a book. I think for a lot of teams, and for DMG in particular, or people who are playing against DMG in particular, this should be worrying because you first pick Swain and you say you are going to go for a dive comp. It's all you can play. I exaggerate a little bit here, but it's calling them out, saying, actually, we lock the Swain, we lock in this anti-dive comp, we lock a whole melee comp, basically. We're not going to run an AD carry. Gnar is effectively the AD carry, and we think with what you play, you can't answer it. And the answer was they couldn't. The Corki could not play the game. The Azir was long range and still could not play the game. It starts this early when Nomi starts picking up early kills on the Swain. And this isn't the Swain from yesterday. This is a big boy with kills.
It's actually something that Jamada said in the very end after the game, which I agree and disagree with at the same time. Yes, draft doesn't matter if one team gets accelerated so much ahead as the Rich Gang managed to, but it's also the factor that the draft actually matters a lot here, because for Rich Gang, this was exactly the team comp that if you let them get ahead, you are gonna have such a hard time trying to get the game back into your hands, because Swain, Galio are really a pain to deal with if they're ahead of you, if they have the items, if they're feeling stronger than you, and if you cannot punish them for being on the sidelines or anywhere on the map.
And we can even put a little bit more on top of that cake. They got the grubs. And for this composition initialized, you were saying like, it's so important, the grubbies.
Yeah, because you aren't running a traditional siege comp, a traditional AD carry comp. You don't actually have like the ability to sit in front of a tower and hit it super easily or quite melee. Swain gets to auto attack occasionally, but until he gets loads of AP, it's not going to be that much. So maximizing the damage you get when you hit the turret matters. And of course, you could dive the turrets very aggressively, and we saw a bit of that too. The top lane tier 1 where it got a bit dicey, notwithstanding, it is pretty significant, but we sort of hit this point, right, where DMG are shoving up, trying to get what they can, but Nomi flashes forwards in this play on the Swain. And Bisgard has to disengage with the Azir, and what do you do as DMG? The Vi and the Leona go one direction, and you don't get out from the Swain and the Nautilus and everyone else afterwards. Hell, Ho-Ho just flashes after the Azir with a thumbs up and gets to do this afterwards. Like, how on earth, especially once you're behind, do you even think about disengaging? You've dived into this massive meat grinder, and the meat grinder follows you. It's awful.
Yeah, it's like dying to Baron and giving him boots. I think that was the replay. And you can see it from the damage as well. When Gnar is not on the top 2 damage dealers, something happened. And that Swain was the something.
I would still stand by my point that it's Swain and Galio combined, because if you look at how Rich Gang were moving in the early parts of the game, like pre-level 6 even, there is a lot of attention towards the bot lane and a lot of attention towards making sure that whenever a play happens, there is a possibility for Haha to be able to jump in as quickly as possible and to join them, especially when the ultimate is unlocked for this Galio. Because of that, every single fight that Rich Gang are choosing to take, they have this additional numbers advantage that can always join in and help them out, and it becomes so easy when there is always a Galio who can just jump in, bring it a little bit of control, bring a shield for everybody, and on top of that, Swain is just, doing the Swain things. It's so funny, Swain didn't even have to build any tank items whatsoever to survive. All he did was deal damage. He got so much additional health just from his stacks because he was controlling people and killing them non-stop.
Yeah, he goes Zonya's third. That's about it. That's not a Rift Maker. That's not a armor or magic damage or magic MR items. That's just raw damage. And when you've then also got every champion with a hell of a lot of CC, it is very difficult to actually deal your damage as DMG. I think part of it was the drafting we kind of talked about. They went Azir last to try and manage it a little bit, but it's not that easy.
It is not. For Rich Gang, though, it was not easy, but well executed throughout all 3 games. And so far, they're 3-0. And this is an excellent opportunity to communicate with Envy, who's waiting for us on the interview, to understand a little bit more about this composition. And there he is! Envy!
Yo!
3-0. This is looking clean. Everybody was looking at ready. What do you have to say?
I mean, don't get me wrong, coming into this split, we were terrified. Looking at the teams, we were like, all these ex-pro players coming in, it's going to be an insane split, but at the same time, that's what got us pumped up, that's what got us excited, and we were like, we want to prove that we're the best, we want to prove that these big names coming in, we can tear them down, break them down, and win. That's exactly what we've done.
The 3-0 is a clean statement of what you wanted to do, and we just started on play day. You still have one more to go, it's versus Chaos, and then you can go into the playoff stage, and that's going to be extremely interesting because Group A and Group B are going to be fighting it off as well. with this in mind, and you were talking about the team and the ex-pro players and all that, when you look into your team, how would you describe Rich Gang? Because it's something to ask this of the players, but for the manager, when you look from the outside perspective, from the bird's eye view, who is Rich Gang to you? How would you describe it?
Honestly, I mean, some of the guys that we've got in our team, they're already veterans. I mean, obviously, Hoho, Banderas, like, those guys have been at Wii U Masters. Like, I wanted to say diamonds in the rough, but that's not accurate, in my opinion. I'd say that Rich Gang, to me, we are the spear that pierces through, basically, the shields of people that have, like, you know, Perks, Yankos, Nemesis. Like, we are that spear that's going to drive through and break them down.
Okay.
That is our goal. That's like our motto, being shattering the expectations. Like, we want to basically shatter everybody beneath us. So yeah, I'd say we're the spear that breaks through.
Oh, that was a beautiful statement. Okay, I love it. Now, moving on versus Chaos, and I would like to get your point of view before the game. You already locked in, you have the 3-0. You could end up the day with a perfect and clean score, and also the first of the group. What is the game plan? Do you want to chill a little bit, or do you want to go heavy and be the spear you keep talking about?
I mean, without saying too much, I mean, the guys have fun in their games anyway, regardless. That last game was proof enough, I guess you could say. Everybody was having time. Banderas was in doing what he does best. So, you know, everybody has a laugh, but like, I feel like the guys still want to win. They want to be at the top. They want to basically show that, right, okay, we are here. We are at the peak. We are at the pinnacle. So I feel like this next game, they're not going to slow down, and they're just going to absolutely obliterate them.
Makes sense. If you want to be the best, there's no break for you. I love it. Envy, congratulations on this one, and best of luck for the final game on Group B. And who knows, we might meet each other on playoffs.
Fingers crossed, but I'm sure that we will. See you later.
I love it. Now that's confidence. You know, as soon as somebody says out loud spear, I'm in. I'm invested.
It's a very easy kind of like Archeron neuron activation moment. It's true.
100%. I'm sorry.
I know what he is. I know what he is. He's a simple man, guys.
Best off, when you look into the desk, all of us are extremely simple. I'm the spear. Initialize. Have you heard about Evelyn? See? Got you. Solari, you know there's a crow somewhere. There's a swine and also there's another game afterwards, which will be Venom Crest and Chaos. Are you ready for that one? Everyone, I'm pleased to tell you, we're going on to a break. Don't leave us. I'll be soon.
Welcome, class.